am here for another episode of Chris Talks to Interesting People. Today, I've got my good friend Sandy Drisdelle. Sandy, your husband Jacques, and I spoke last week, and it was a great conversation. And today, I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say, because out of my conversation with Jacques, I heard some things about what's going on in your life, and it's a God thing. There's a physical journey and a spiritual journey, and they intersected. What took you out of town last week?
Well, I have a relative that has been in the hospital since December, and he was getting discharged, and because of a stroke, he has vascular dementia, and so he needs help. And he needed to be discharged from the hospital, checked into a care home, and where he's been living needed to be cleaned up and closed up and taken care of.
Is this a relative that that is close, that you have provided a lot of care for through your life?
No, actually, no, anything but.
Anything but.
Yeah.
And that's the interesting part is, as I understand it, this is a bit of a miracle. How is this person in your life?
It's a male relative that was in and out of my life from the time I was about 6 months old till I was 18, I would get, maybe 19,
Okay.
18, 19. And it's not someone I ever wanted to be close to.
So you felt anger toward this relative, a lot of hurt, a lot of pain. You did not know Jesus yet. Where did you go with all that pain, with all that hurt and betrayal and that baggage?
Well, there was nowhere for me to go. I mean, there was no one really, because I couldn't even verbalize exactly what was going on or anything. So there was absolutely nowhere to go but to God.
Wow. And you tried other things.
Oh, yes, I tried lots of things, I tried to get rid of the pain and the hurt and the anger by all sorts of means, drugs and drinking and the other behaviors that go along with that. Moving, like my life was just an upheaval and a mess.
All the time.
All the time. I could never get things so that I felt good or my life in a good place. I was always trying to get myself fixed and get my life fixed.
And did you get some help along the way?
Yeah, I started going to see therapists, psychiatrists, psychologists quite young in life, actually, in my teenage years. And
Wow.
it carried right on until my late 50s.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And I tried different faiths. I wanted out of the pain. I wanted out of the hurt.
Out of the pain, of course. That's what we all want, is out of the pain.
Yeah.
And then at some point you met Jesus.
Yeah. For me, it was like the end of the rope.
Yeah.
I got to the place where I could see that I was my problem. I was the common denominator in everything that had been wrong in my life, my entire life. And so I decided the only way I could do was just to remove myself. And it was then that God stepped in. And
So you had sought help. You had sought to, like you say, fix yourself and be rid of the pain. What did God do that none of those other approaches did for you?
He showed me the truth about me, and then he showed me the solution to it and the answer to it. And
tell me more about that.
It was God. It was God's forgiveness.
Yeah.
It was doing things God's way, not my way anymore, or not even what the world says you should do. The world told me, I could forgive myself. I had to forgive myself. Well, I wasn't equipped to forgive myself. I hurt my babies.
Yeah.
My oldest son had died, and I'd contributed to that.
Wow.
And how does a mother forgive herself when she's harmed her baby?
Sounds both wonderful and incredibly painful all at once.
Oh, very painful, very painful. When I first into my relationship with God, I did lots of crying, but at the same time, He met me with His forgiveness and His love. When I found out that He had deliberately sacrificed His Son for me personally,
Yeah.
it just blew my mind that I couldn't even imagine that kind of love and that kind of forgiveness.
Yeah.
Because He did it deliberately. I know what it was like to lose a son.
You learned reality coupled with love.
Yeah. And that there was an out. I didn't have to stay in the pain. I didn't have to stay the same. I didn't have to continue being the same person that I was, doing the same things that I'd done.
This relative that you've recently helped, huge part of the pain and the wounds in your life, how do you transition from that place of pain and betrayal and want nothing to do with this person to now you're reaching out?
Yeah, and even feeling love for him, which is amazing.
Not just acting it, but feeling it.
Feeling it,
That's
yeah.
a big deal.
Oh, it's a big deal. I
Yeah.
could just, when I think that, you know, a person can be just so lost with nobody helping them and needing help and nobody to help them.
Yeah.
And they just end up totally lost and alone
Yeah.
in
And
fear.
he was.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So you'd mentioned before something about a dream or a series of dreams.
Yeah, it was early 2016 or late 2015, somewhere around there. I had 3 dreams, 3 nights in a row, and it was about him. And what I got from it was to pray for him, first thing, and another thing is find him.
And so this is somebody that's, I mean, years have transpired
Years
since you've seen him.
Yes, and I didn't want to see him, and so it occurred to me I could put an ad in the paper in the last place that I heard that he was living. And so I think it was within a week he phoned.
Wow.
And I was excited to hear from him. And
well, I was going to ask you how you felt.
Yeah, I felt excited because the excitement was from God. Like he gave me a dream and he told me to find him, so I did. And
how do you forgive somebody who had abused and betrayed and hurt you so badly?
Well, when I look at myself and how I had hurt others, when I looked at how Jesus forgave those that spit on him and beat him and crucified him and said lies about him, and it was just like an echo for a long time in my mind. Forgive them, for they know not what they do.
Wow.
And it was like when God opened my eyes to show me what I was like and what I did to my children. About, I was not in my right senses. If I had been, I would not have hurt my children.
Yeah. And at some level, every one of us is not in our right senses. We all lose track of reality. We all lose track of what's right.
We get full of ourselves sometimes.
We get full of ourselves, and then God brings that reality and that love back together.
Yeah, and the whole thing is, who am I not to forgive?
Because
I've been
so
forgiven.
Yeah. And that's pure gospel right there.
Well, that's how God works. That's the truth.
Yeah. I don't hear you saying that you would advocate for someone who is in the middle of being abused, that they should just forgive and carry on.
Oh, no, definitely not. No.
So you walk back in and the situation's changed. You're not vulnerable anymore. And if someone who is right now, today, experiencing abuse in their life, and if you could speak to that person, what would you tell them?
The first thing that I would say, it's not your fault. Doesn't matter circumstances, situation, who the person is, it is not your fault. If you're getting abused, it's not your fault. And then remove yourself.
Yeah. Get safe.
Get safe. Get away from that situation and get the help that you need.
Okay. To the person who once experienced abuse but isn't anymore actively in that place of risk and pain, but the wounds have traveled with them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're still hurting, they still feel betrayed, they still feel the shame. What do you say to that person?
Get help. Talk to somebody. Say what's going on in your mind and your heart, and
Don't keep it in.
don't keep it in. Get help. Reach out to God. At the end of the road, when you're at the end of the road, God will not let you down.
I tell you, Sandy, when you describe the life that you once led and the experiences you've been through, and then I know the Sandy that I've known for the last 3-4 years now, I have a hard time picturing what you once were because it's not the Sandy I know. You're one of the most beautiful people I know, and I just see Jesus radiating from you. I know you're not perfect. I'm not trying to put you on a pedestal, but
Yeah, I'll take myself off it in a few minutes, anyways.
but I see Jesus radiating from you, and I see how your love for him and his love for you have just changed everything.
Sometimes I look back at the person that I was, and it's hard to believe that I was like that. I know that I was, because there's still traces of some of it. I'm still a work in process.
Yes.